just want to press you just a little bit more in that regard before we get to the next question.
Yeah.
But so even thinking not just with the new materialism as an object-oriented ontology, but even thinking the work in post-humanism, so thinking about the category of the human today in light of the historical understanding of those who are excluded from the position of human. So not just human, post-human, but non-human. So I'm thinking in terms of something like the post-colonial, how to reclaim the category of the human in light of this type of historicity. Even in the context of contemporary,
okay.
yeah.
I will now, I always, when I approach this, one way, I'm not saying you are at this level, but usually when I'm getting this question, the implication is, but isn't, for European humanists, isn't their notion of humanity secretly Eurocentric and so on, no? So, but this is my conflict with, among other things, with one with whom I have good relations personally, but not theoretically, Judith Butler. I think she's way too much a traditional liberal for me. Her vision is nonetheless, we should expand our scope to include others. Her worry is always, but what about those who are excluded, and so on, and so on. And and that's her problem with universalism, how to get a true universality, which will not be exclusive. Okay, my brutal answer, I don't have time to develop it now, is that every universality is exclusive, and that's what's good about it. You know, and but another point is, that's why I always here like to mention one of my authentic heroes, Malcolm X. You know, for which universality I am, not for this humanist all-inclusive, you know. I will give you, I think, a good example here, so that I don't get lost in another 10 minutes.
I might take you off.
Yeah. And now, you know what I proposed him, the only way to control me? Did you see, it's an old classic, it's not even a very good movie. Did you see James Bond, Goldfinger? You remember that scene when Goldfinger has that car with the red button? You press the button and maybe you need this. That's when you direct talk with me. No, you know, LGBT plus, I fully support them. The problems I have is when the movement makes in part of its ideology too much for what I considered identity political turn. Like, you know, so the very expression LGBTQ or whatever plus, it's crucial, I'm saying this as a Hegelian now, no, to move with this plus from the empirical to the more speculative level. The empirical level is the way this plus is usually conceptualized. The idea is this one. We should avoid we should escape this binary logic. There are only two real sexes, masculine, feminine. We should admit that there is a plurality of gender or sex, whatever identities, and so on. And in the typical liberal way, they worry then. Oh my God, we composed a list, you had list 35, 36, bigender, trigender, asexual, boots, whatever, and so on. But they worry, what if another guy comes and says, I don't recognize myself in any of those lists? So plus means and for, or let's keep the space open for all the others. My Hegelian, you can imagine it's very simple solution is, no, you can be directly a plus. Plus, and plus, the identity of human subjectivity at its most radical is that of a plus. You can exist as a plus, which means precisely at a distance from identity, doubting your identity, and in a further speculation, I don't have the time to go into it now, I would have said that this is why, for Lacan, the basic form, or the basic form, shape of human subjectivity is feminine and hysterical. For a true Freudian, the term hysteria is something the highest you can say about a person. Lacan is clear here. He says university discourse is established knowledge. inventions happen at the level of hysteria. Hysteria is, for me, the most elementary form of the critique of ideology. Hysteria means, what's the hysterical question? It is you, figure of master, usually male master, you want to fixate me onto some identity. You are my wife, a whore, a mother, whatever. The hysterical question is, why am I what you are claiming that I am? This questioning the identity imposed by ideology. And this brings me back to Malcolm X. That's how I think one should read his X. It's not this longing for lost roots, or let's go back to Africa and found our identity. No, I read him. He is, at least in his great moments, Malcolm X is fully aware. He is not a partisan of new creative black identity. No, he is in search of a new universality. He says in an ingenious way that the fact that blacks were brutally deprived of their particular roots is at the same time the greatest chance of them. It's a space to create new universality, new freedom. His plan is not this typical liberal multiculturalist one. Yeah, we shouldn't oppress the blacks. They should also be allowed their particular identity. No, thanks. They should be allowed also to participate in our universality. Because, you know, that's the trick with multiculturalists. They like to, white liberal multiculturalists, they like to humiliate themselves. It's a permanent joke with them. You know, like, oh, we are guilty of everything. We white male, we are, everything that happens in the third world. For example, I remember 25 years ago when the Rwanda genocide. All my left liberal friends said, yes, of course, it's a consequence of neocolonialism. And a black friend of mine from there, he's a genius, he exploded back. He said, how can you be so racist that you even allow us to be authentically evil? You really think that we are innocent children and only you can make us evil and so on. So I think that I believe I'm a universalist. And I think this is a pseudo problem, you know, this multicultural liberal problem. How, let's say you are, but you are not. You are a Chinese, I'm a Latino American. When we talk, how do we know that we mean the same thing when we talk about art, state, and so on and so on? The world market has solved this. It doesn't matter if we don't think in the same terms. Universality exists in the world market, an actual universality. When we make a deal, I mean, it doesn't matter what you think, what I think, it functions. Capitalism is enacted universality, but I'm getting lost, sorry. Yeah?